Welcome. This is the fifth video in a series of short videos about effective conversations in child protection. These are based on the principles of motivational interviewing and collaborative communication and applied to child protection scenarios. This is part of practice resources developed to support the implementation of effective child protection. In video 4, we met Ellen during the child protection investigation and saw her start to develop her change statement. In video 5, we meet Ellen again. Firstly, after the child protection case conference, when she is meeting the social worker to develop her steps to change, and later, when she has made progress but is worried she's stuck at step 7. Ellen is a mother to 3 children. There are concerns she's drinking, and this is affecting her ability to look after her children. Following a child protection investigation, the children were discussed at a child protection case conference. They are now on the child protection register and a child protection plan is being developed. In this first video clip, we see the development of the child protection plan. The social worker is working with Ellen to confirm her change statement and develop the steps to change. You'll notice again that this isn't the tense interview that it could be. There is no real conflict or resistance in the relationship. The interview starts with the social worker acknowledging that Ellen has changed the wording of the change statement. This is an important part of working collaboratively with families where they take ownership of how their change is described and which words are used. This video focuses on developing one of the other core effective child protection tools, steps to change. There are 2 specific approaches from the effective child protection model that are illustrated in these videos. These are the change statement and steps to change. In this video, the social worker is helping Ellen to identify the actions that she needs to take to achieve the changes that she has identified. Steps to change is a series of small steps that contribute to progress towards the change that has been identified. It is a collaborative planning tool. Steps to change is graded step 1 to step 10. However, the main focus in child protection is between step 2 and step 8. Step 2 is a description of the level of care in an area that has resulted in child protection concerns. It is care that is considered not good enough. Step 8 is care that is good enough. It is care where the child is no longer considered at risk of significant harm. The work of child protection practitioners is to achieve care where the child is no longer at risk of significant harm. This is a short illustrative video. In it, the social worker uses many of the principles of good conversations. She reminds Ellen of her own words, affirms her, and keeps her focus on what Ellen can do practically to start to make some of the changes. Ellen is understandably unsure she can achieve this on one hand, and on the other wants to achieve it straight away. The social worker shows that she believes in Ellen's ability and helps Ellen keep her focus on identifying the small practical steps. Reminding ourselves of the previous video, what is the social worker's mindset? Is it one of collaboration and hope? Or is it a mindset of criticism and hopelessness? Let's see what you notice.
So we've talked about the change statement together and we've changed a few of the words. I think that was okay, wasn't it? Okay, so now we can start to talk about how we're going to do this. Let's talk about the changes that you decided were important to make and how we're going to get started. How do you feel about that now?
Well, it's all become a bit scary, really. What if I can't do all this? It's all about making these big changes. Easy enough to say, but what if I can't do it?
I think your feelings are understandable. Do you remember us talking about why you want to change and what it'll be like when that change has happened?
But what if I can't do it and I just end up hurting the kids even more?
Do you remember some of the things you told me about why you wanted to change? what you'd want to stop, and then the good things that came from that. Do you remember the words?
Yeah. No more chaos. Things a bit calmer. The kids liking me again.
Yes, those things are clear to you now, aren't they? You know, Ellen, you've been strong. You've shown a lot of courage to get you this far. It's okay to have doubts, but let's think about your strengths and how you're using them to push through. Every time we've talked about things, you say you need to stop drinking, and that's what you think will help. So what are the things you can do to stop drinking alcohol?
Well, I can stop buying it and having it in the house for a start. And stop having my friend over. She always brings a bottle and I end up wasted on the sofa.
And you've started talking to substance misuse. They can really help you.
Yeah. She seems okay and she understands what happens.
Good. So you know we're talking about making progress over a few months, not a magic wand, right? It will take some time. And you know you have support and time to achieve what you want. People really want you to succeed.
I just want things to be good now.
Yes, that's frustrating, isn't it? You've made an important decision and you can't wait for it to happen. Change like this takes time, and that's okay. Remember that you have 3 months until the next review, and I reckon with your motivation, you'll get there with some positive changes to show. Let's think about what those first steps will look like. So, in 3 months' time, what will have changed at yours?
I won't be drinking. The house will be tidier. The kids will have clean clothes to go to school and a packed lunch.
So, when you stop drinking alcohol, routines will improve for you and the kids, and that will start to make home calmer and welcoming for them, and there will be less rowing.
I hope so.
That's a lot of the things you wanted to achieve. So they sound like a lot of steps you will have done.
Step 8 seems so far away.
I guess it must feel that way. If you break it down even more, what's that first step?
I don't know, really. I just need to tell my friend to stop coming to the house, and I need to stop buying the alcohol for myself, somehow.
Good. So, what will help you to do that? What will you be thinking?
I think if I can keep busy, rather than just sit, because when I'm sitting and doing nothing, I feel down and I just can't be asked.
Okay, sounds like you know yourself well enough. You remember why this is important to you. You know the traps that makes you start feeling low and then you want to drink. That's a really good example of you thinking about what happens to you. Working out ways to avoid some situations by finding different things to think and do. I think you're right to aim at small steps that are really important to making a big change. Every little bit of progress you make helps you to move up the steps. Remember to congratulate yourself every time you make a good decision. I think you can get better at noticing when you've done well and let yourself be pleased with yourself.
I know it'll be worth it in the end, but I've just got to keep that in mind.
Right. Keep that picture of how you want things to be in the end in mind, but focus on the day-to-day steps. You said you'd tell your friend not to come and stop buying alcohol, so those are the first thing to think about and try to do.
What did you notice? I think there are 3 main areas of interest. We've talked previously about the word "ors" and what it represents. In this video, the social worker reminded Ellen of what she'd said she'd wanted and how she described what was not good enough for her and how she'd like things to be in 3 months. There were lots of affirming statements about beliefs and strengths and about what's possible. I think it also showed how real, sustained change can take time and patience. The second point was about the social worker's mindset. It was positive, one of collaboration and hope. They're in service of helping Ellen succeed, because that was what the Child Protection Conference had decided. We did not sense that the social worker was frustrated about Ellen's inability to sort herself out, or that she felt Ellen was a bad parent and needed to be told so. We didn't sense any of these conflicts. The social worker wanted Ellen to succeed and may have had a stronger belief in Ellen's capability than Ellen did herself on that day. It allowed the social worker the freedom to support Ellen and keep focus on change and how to achieve that. The last point is about keeping the focus on change, using the change statement and steps to change tools. The main focus of the conversation is keeping momentum towards good enough care. Steps to change creates a discipline to have practical conversations about how exactly the process of change can start. It is fundamentally a collaborative process, as it wouldn't be possible to complete steps to change without the full engagement of the family. In effective child protection, the steps to change can be used as a template to work with the family. However, it is important to remember that the purpose of steps to change is to stimulate the conversation about the changes necessary to keep children safe. It is the conversation that is important, not completing the template. In this second video clip, we join Ellen and the social worker at a later stage. In the clip, they talk about her progress and her steps to change. You'll see that she has made good progress, but is frustrated. She's on step 7, is nearly there, but feels stuck.
So I've done everything and I'm still on step 7. I'm stuck. What more can I do?
You can be very proud of yourself for making important changes over the last few months. Remind me, what was step 7 as you had it written down there?
Step 7, it said, I've carried on not buying alcohol and no one is allowed to bring it to the house. I get up every morning with the children to make them ready for school. We have breakfast together and talk about what they look forward to during the day. We all try to think of something that will make us happy. The children can depend on me.
Yes, those are the nice bits, aren't they? Do you remember when we wrote them down? Do you remember when we added those things you talked about having breakfast? And that's been working well for you, hasn't it? One thing I've seen is that you notice a lot what's been happening as we've gone through the steps. Good decisions you make and the problems. You've been congratulating yourself as you've made progress.
I feel so different now. I used to be so miserable and always down in the dumps. I couldn't think about anything else. And I wasn't paying attention to the kids. I feel so bad about that.
Yes, I remember that time too. It was tough for you to face up to, wasn't it? Can't have been easy for you. Dark times for you? But you did face up to it. So how has what you've done affected the children?
Well, that was the whole point. I used to think they absolutely hated me. and I was disgusted with myself. Now, though, the youngest two, they're so much happier. They don't argue and fight like they used to, or as often. They used to break things in the house. We don't have any of that anymore. And they're getting good reports at school as well. I think they can see that I've got time for them now.
You're right. If you're down, you're drunk, or you're hungover, well, you're not really there for them when they need you. But now, well, you're helping them to feel secure, aren't you?
I understand that now. But I'm still struggling with Shan. Things are a bit better. She listens to me and she doesn't bunk off school like she used to. But I still feel like she's distant with me and angry. I just wish we could talk, you know?
What do you think that's all about?
I suppose she's older, isn't she? 13, teenager. Maybe it's her hormones or something.
What would she say if she was here now?
She'd say, "Oh, yeah, great, ma'am," until you're passed out on the sofa and can't get up in the morning again.
So you don't think that she believes that these changes are going to last? Do you think she worries how you will be when she gets home?
It could be. It really hurts to think that. Maybe she's right.
It sounds as if you both want to build some trust and belief that you can keep this going.
I suppose so.
You said you felt stuck. You were still at step 7. What's that all about then?
I really don't know. I don't know if I can trust myself. What if it all goes wrong again?
You've done so well in meeting the little one's needs, and you're seeing the changes happening. They're a lot more settled. Shan's older and probably has clearer memories of the hard times. She's probably worried about you too. It may take a little more time for her and for you.
It just feels so slow.
You've done so well. You've nearly done everything. Well, you have done everything. The thing left is to keep doing it over and over with support around you. You need to get to that place where Shan believes and that you're not scared it's going to go wrong. I think that's being nearly there. You're not really stuck. You're practicing doing all these great things over and over.
You make it sound boring.
Well, maybe it is a little. You've done so well jumping from step to step, seeing how far you've come. And now it's about just keeping it going.
You never told me that step 7 was a boring step.
That's a new one. Step 7 is the boring step. We started this conversation talking about what you wrote as step 7. No alcohol in the house. Up every morning with the children. Nice conversations over breakfast. Happy talk and the children being able to depend on you. So, congratulations. You've achieved all of those, haven't you? Now it's just about practicing so you get more confident, keeping at it. That's all. Do you think you want to add anything to that, or is it okay as it is?
No, it's okay. I just need to be patient.
Well, you can write that on it if you want. Be patient and keep doing the positive things you're doing and enjoying your relationship with the children.
What did you notice in the second clip? Ellen had done so well, achieved what she wanted to achieve, yet was scared about not being able to sustain the change. Not trusting herself and believing that Sian, her daughter, may also be expecting her to slip up. You hear a lot of affirming and reframing in the clip, keeping to the same fundamental principles you saw in the first clip and in the other videos. They describe step 7 as being boring. It is about keeping going and practicing the new approaches as day-to-day challenges really test how well prepared a person is for the future. We often find in child protection that this question of how long do you wait to make sure the change will last is what worries professionals. Research indicates that relapses happen in the first few months. So professionals can be as anxious as Ellen. They are worried about letting go. Ellen was worried about trusting herself. This clip showed the practical use of steps to change as an onward planning tool. In Ellen's case, it was useful to check how she'd written the steps she wanted to achieve and compare this with how things actually were. It was an objective measure and allowed Ellen to check her feelings of being anxious against the evidence of what she'd achieved. It emphasises how difficult change can be and how a good, collaborative relationship helps us to see clearly and honestly what is happening. It allowed Ellen to be honest about what she felt without fear of any negative consequences. What are the key learning points from these examples? In this video, we saw good use of these principles of what makes an effective conversation. The social worker had a positive mindset and the conversation was collaborative throughout. The social worker knew about Ellen's hopes and the things she'd already said she wanted. She was able to use these to remind Ellen, and in doing so, affirmed her. She demonstrated that she believed in Ellen's ability and reminded Ellen that the Child Protection Case Conference wanted Ellen to succeed. She listened to Ellen's anxieties about being unable to achieve this and reassured her. By focusing back onto small steps, it made the possibility of achieving these changes much more real for Ellen. We've also looked briefly at steps to change. A plan, developed collaboratively with the family to map out the progressive steps to achieve the change linked to significant harm. With Ellen, what needed to change was clear, and the social worker encouraged Ellen to identify the very first actions she could take. To tell her friend that comes bottle in hand to drink with her not to visit anymore, and for Ellen to stop buying alcohol for the house. In steps to change, these would be the very first steps, steps 3 and 4. There is much more information available about steps to change. We've talked about 3 very different elements. Effective child protection uses tools to encourage and support these conversations, such as steps to change, techniques such as motivational interviewing, collaborative communication, and the skills of OARS, a reset mindset that has a positive regard for families and believes in their ability to change. With all these things to remember, how can we apply ourselves in the moment of these difficult conversations to do our best for Ellen? We've touched on the role of reflective practice in previous videos. Reflective practice can help us in 3 ways. We can reflect on situations we have experienced and critically evaluate how we were able to apply ourselves in the moment. It can help us understand what really happens in our practice and feed into the second type of reflective practice, which is to reflect for. To prepare for a situation you are facing so that you rehearse how you intend to respond, anticipating what you think may happen and how you'll avoid pitfalls such as criticising or how you'll manage conflict. To reflect in is to be able to simultaneously during conversations be part of the conversation as well as to have a more objective oversight about what is happening. For example, what is happening to you? How are you feeling? What does your body language tell me? Reflective practice helps ensure we have well-rehearsed options available to us as practitioners during these difficult conversations. This video is part of the Practice Resources for Effective Child Protection. There is more information about the Effective Child Protection Model and the Change Statement and Steps to Change in the Practice Resources under the category of Change. There is more information about reflective practice in the Practice Resources. Other videos in this series are available to explore effective communication. These focus on areas such as dealing with hostility, discussing an allegation against a father, disagreement about the recommendation in a report, confirming the change statement and building steps to change. Additional handouts are also available for you to download in the Practice Resources section.